contract with Barcelona. Maybe we'll talk about that later in the week. I'm always trying to find different things to talk about on the show, but today we're going to be mostly talking about the gigantic Rams-Lions trade that happened on Saturday night. The Rams trading away Jared Goff, 2 future first-round picks, and a third-round pick to the Detroit Lions for one Matthew Stafford. And when I first saw this trade pop up on my phone, I got the little ESPN notification from my ESPN app on my phone that da-da-da, pulled it out of my pocket, and I was expecting maybe an update on the Heat game, a final score. I wasn't expecting that. That's for sure. I took a look at my phone and I yelled as loud as I could. I said, "What?" Like, not in any anger or confusion, but just kind of like shock. I was not expecting this trade to happen at all, and I think a lot of the sporting world was kind of shocked when this trade happened. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of that today. You know what this trade felt like to me? This trade felt like, for all of you sports fans who also play some sports video games, it felt like when, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it felt like when you're playing a franchise mode, a MyGM mode, whatever it is, whether you're playing FIFA or NBA 2K or Madden, NFL, NHL, whatever it is that you may be playing, whatever franchise management game mode that there is for that game, this to me felt like when you're in the trade finder or trade selector and you're just trying to plug in different things to try and find something that works for the player that you want. It's ridiculous things like you're offering this player and that player, this pick and that pick, just any combination of things, just trying to get the computer to take your trade. That's what this felt like the Rams were doing. And it felt like they were totally in the mindset of like, you know what, I'm gonna be controlling the team anyway. I'm gonna be playing every single game, and I'm pretty good at this video game, so we're gonna win every single game. We're gonna go to the Super Bowl every single year and win. So it doesn't matter what I do with my 2 first-round picks and my quarterback that's been with the team for however many years. It'll be fine. That's what this trade felt like to me, and it felt like the CPU team, the Detroit Lions, accepted, and they got an absolute haul for Matthew Stafford, a quarterback that they were going to have to trade anyway. They already mutually agreed to part ways. It wasn't something that came out of the blue. They mutually agreed to part ways, so the league knows that Stafford and the Lions are going to part ways eventually, so that artificially drives down the asking price, knowing that this team is going to have to trade away this player anyway. So regardless, I'm going to split this up into 2 segments. This video that you're watching now, if you're watching retroactively on YouTube, is going to be covering the Rams side of things, and then the Lions is going to be in a separate video. But for those of you who are listening to the show on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, wherever you may be listening to, it's all going to be one, so don't you worry. But with that being said, the Rams side of things, the Lions again trade Matthew Stafford to the Los Angeles Rams for Jared Goff, 2 first-round picks, that's in 2022, 2023, and a third-round pick. The deal saves about $5 million in cap space for the Rams, which isn't much. So for those of you who are saying, oh, this is to dump Jared Goff's awful contract onto another team, it's like, well, yeah, but you're only saving this amount of money by purchasing Matthew Stafford's contract. So it's not necessarily a salary cap dump. It is purely, in my mind, about an upgrade at the quarterback position, regardless of money. And the rest of the deal kind of shows me that the Rams are in that attitude as well, based on how reckless that they are with those first round picks. Jared Goff still has 4 years left on his $134 million contract. Stafford has 2 years left on his $132 million contract. I know Stafford signed a couple of years earlier, so the value of that contract at the time was massive, and it's lesser so than Goff's now, but regardless. Look, like I said at the beginning of the segment, it felt like the Rams were playing a game of MyGM mode or whatever it's called, and they were plugging in a bunch of things to make sure that they got the player that they wanted, regardless of how expensive it was, because they're controlling the team. They're confident that they're going to win, and that's exactly what happened here. I like the idea of the trade for the Rams. They got better offensively. I think Matthew Stafford is a much better quarterback than Jared Goff is. I like the potential combination between Stafford and McVay. That should make you excited if you're more than a casual football fan, if you know about the X's and O's and what Sean McVay's offense is about. That combination should make you really excited. This will allow McVay to try to be able to open up the offense a little bit, maybe try and reinvent the wheel a little bit as well, and most importantly, push the ball down the field, because if there's one thing that Matthew Stafford isn't lacking, it's arm strength. And, on the other side of things, Matthew Stafford will get a fresh start with a contending team that has a Super Bowl caliber defense. And, this also solves any future complications that you would have had with Jared Goff, since he appears to be regressing as the quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, we'll see how he does with the Detroit Lions. But regardless, I like the idea of the trade for the Rams, but the Rams 100%, without a doubt in my mind, overpaid for Stafford in this trade. I mean, I literally screamed when I got the ESPN notification, as I said, especially in comparison to what the reports were that were the other offers for Stafford. Reportedly, the San Francisco 49ers offered 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks. Now, when you listen to that, and you take a look at what the Rams gave up to get Stafford, that is an astronomical difference based on what the bidding was. If we take a look at the bidding based on what the 49ers offered for Stafford, which was a much more reasonable price. Don't get me wrong, that offer isn't crazy, and if I'm Dan Holmes, who is the new general manager of the Detroit Lions, I would say, hey, look, you need to give me a little bit more than that. Obviously, that sounded like an entry bid, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks. But regardless, based on where that is, where that trade value is in the ballpark, the fact that the Rams gave up 2 first-round picks, a third pick, and Jared Goff is absolutely astronomical in terms of difference. And I mean, think about it. If Matthew Stafford, he was a great quarterback, mind you, we spent a lot of the time over the past couple of weeks complimenting how good Matthew Stafford has been in a bad situation. If you take Matthew Stafford, who's a great quarterback, on the downside of his prime, and you get 2 first-round picks for him, imagine how many first-round picks Deshaun Watson is going to go for. So if there's any clear-cut winner in this trade, it's the Houston Texans for not only for not participating in the trade and artificially increasing the value for Deshaun Watson by about 3 first-round picks, I imagine. And, to put this all into context, the Rams traded 2 first-round picks to get Jared Goff, if you remember. In the 2016 NFL draft, the Tennessee Titans actually had the first pick in the draft. They traded 2 first-round picks to the Titans. Those picks became Derrick Henry and Corey Davis, so really good pickups for the Titans. And of course, the Los Angeles Rams got Jared Goff, and so not only did the Rams spend 2 first-round picks to get Jared Goff, they're now spending 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick to get rid of him and his contract. And again, this isn't a contract issue, ladies and gentlemen. They did not do this for a salary dump, because they are only saving anywhere between $5 to $10 million on the cap hit, which isn't an enormous amount in comparison to the $25 a year-ish that Jared Goff was getting on the contract. It's just really bad asset management. This, to me, feels like the Rams were absolutely desperate, and the Lions caught the Rams in that desperation and were able to get an absolute haul for this. The Rams appeared very, very desperate, and they absolutely overpaid. The ideal trade for me would have been Goff and a third rounder for Stafford, because regardless, if you're trading for Stafford, and especially since it's the Los Angeles Rams, you don't have the money to be able to hold 2 quarterbacks at that price point on the roster. So regardless, Goff was going to either be going to Detroit, or they would have traded Goff in a separate deal. Goff was going to be part of this either way. They could not afford both those contracts. But the ideal trade to me, if I'm the Rams GM, it would have been Goff and a third-round pick. And if absolutely necessary, if some other team bid it a little bit higher, I would have thrown in 1 first-round pick and said, forget the third round. Here, I'll just give you the first round. And if that doesn't happen, well, you're stuck with Goff for another couple of years, and then you're going to figure it out later. I would not have given that many first-round picks away. And with this trade, this will be... How do I phrase this? With this trade, the Rams will be going 7 straight years without a first-round pick. 7 straight years. So they won't have a first round pick this year because of the Jalen Ramsey trade from a couple of years ago. They won't be having a first round pick in 2022 and 2023. The first round pick that will be available for the Rams in 7 years will be in 2024. So what this does is this puts tremendous pressure on the Rams. Tremendous pressure. They need to win a Super Bowl, I would say, in the next 2 years. They need to win the Super Bowl within the next 2 years before Stafford's contract is up, and they can decide whether or not to negotiate. But regardless of whether they renegotiate a contract extension with Stafford, they have a lot more cap issues to deal with than just that, and that's why 2 years, realistically speaking, is generous for the Los Angeles Rams Super Bowl window. They have a lot of contracts to try and figure out. Because let's be frank, the Rams are in cap hell right now. Part of that isn't due to Jared Goff's contract situation. Obviously, again, and I'm repeating this over and over because the consensus seems to be about, this seems to be a cap dump for the Rams. And it's like, no, it's not. They're not really saving that much money on this. The Rams are really going to have to make some tough financial decisions within the next few seasons. And realistically speaking, I think their Super Bowl window, again, is only open as long as Stafford is under contract for the Rams. And I believe he is out from under that contract in 2022, 2023, if my memory serves correctly. So there isn't really a lot of time. I think you absolutely have to win a Super Bowl if you're the Los Angeles Rams, and that's the big question is this new Rams team, with the talent that they have on defense and the emerging talent that they have on offense with a new quarterback, with one of the better offensive minds in the league in Sean McVay, is this enough to take down a Green Bay Packers team, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, or Buffalo? Is it enough? And I think it potentially could be. Defense wins championships. That defense is extremely, extremely good. You could tell with Aaron Donald crying after losing in the divisional round to the Packers. This team is hungry. They want it badly enough. They feel like they couldn't get it done against the Patriots a few years earlier, and they want to be back in that spotlight. I feel like the Rams are going to be a hungry team, but again, that doesn't excuse the fact that they absolutely overpaid. And if this doesn't work out, the Rams have really put themselves in a position in which the Rams could be a not-so-good football team for a long while after this 2-year Super Bowl window has closed. The pressure is on Sean McVay to win now. He has got to make Matthew Stafford work. And part of the reason why Goff regressed was because the league figured out Sean McVay's sweep jet offense. I believe that's what it called, the sweep jet offense, something like that. They figured out the Rams offense, and when McVay had to kind of tweak the offense a little bit, Goff was not able to keep up. So there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that Stafford will be able to do the same. Obviously, Stafford's a better quarterback. We'll have to see how that plays out, but there is pressure on Sean McVay to make Matthew Stafford work as well. This combination, as I said at the beginning of the segment, is exciting, but is it worth trading away your future? Oh, the answer to that really is only if they win. I mean, this is a very black and white. They have to win now. There's no silver lining. There's no, well, at least this happened. There's no, well, I can understand why this didn't work. No, you should be expected to be in the Super Bowl within one of the next 2 years, and you are expected to win that Super Bowl. That's the only way that this trade pays off, because the repercussions are fierce if you don't get this done. As I said, this trade will mean that the Rams will be going 7 years without a first-round draft pick. Last time they used it was on Jared Goff in 2016. No draft picks means that you aren't getting good players and good value at good prices, and you're definitely setting yourself up for a situation in which the Rams are going to have to cut ties with a player or a group of players that they really don't want to try and save money and get out of cap hell. And to have they'll have no assets, no draft picks to try and replace that person. So the window is the next 2 seasons. Let's see if the Rams can get it done. I'm really interested to see what you Rams fans think about this. The casual perception, I always enjoy reading the ESPN comics because everybody becomes a GM, including myself. I loop myself into that group of people, but I'd like to think that I have a better understanding of how the industry works and how everything works in that regard. But regardless, I'm interested to hear what your Rams fans' opinions are on this. Did did the Rams overpay? I absolutely think so. I think they paid way too much. As I said, my ideal trade would have been Goff in the third rounder, because the important thing is that the Lions were going to have to trade Matthew Stafford. This wasn't a surprise trade. This wasn't behind closed doors. The league knew that Matthew Stafford was going to be moving on from the Detroit Lions, and you still managed to overpay for him. That's really risky and reckless asset management. And this puts a ton of pressure on the Rams. They have to win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. Otherwise, there's no way that when we look back on this retrospectively, we can say, oh yeah, this was a good trade for the Rams. They won the trade. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.